That's going to take us on to Turkey, I think. So we're going to stay in region.
Yes, because the next phase of the Ukraine war requires the participation of Finland and Sweden in NATO. People may be aware that the holdout countries, Turkey and Hungary, which is increasingly in Turkey's orbit, had removed their objections because there's effectively, due to consensus in NATO, there's a veto power by member states to allow new members to accede. Zero Hedge has syndicated Seymour Hersh, the veteran journalist who's now called a conspiracy theorist, in his blog on what really went on. And like Gevorg Virats, who joined us a couple of weeks ago, Hersh is quite certain that it was about Turkey being offered a bung to stop the country falling over financially. The details are there on screen. If you tap again, you will see that there's another element to it, which is that Turkey has lent so much to bail out its own central bank from private retail bank level that they cannot honor their domestic dollar deposits if the Turks ever ask for their money back. Hersh notes cynically at the end that America bribes in secret, but Europe does it out in the open. And it's been suggested there's a British end to this as well, because the London Economic has noticed that the UK, in its export credit guarantee arrangements, has funded £680 million worth of guarantees for a high-speed electric railway. Vanessa will be delighted to learn that this will give a better than British, probably a French or Spanish-style high-speed railway to the areas bordering her. So Adana, Mersin, Gaziantep, the famous jihadi training town near the Turkish-Syrian border. That's going to be a first-class high-speed rail now, because the UK government, as you can see here in its own press release, it will be in the show notes, read the blah on why they've decided to do it. The UK has decided to fund that when we don't have, other than a bungled HS2, we don't have it in Britain either, and Eurostar. Speaking of Eurostar, which is our HS1, Ernest Moret, a French, very peaceful political dissident, by all accounts, was arrested, as we covered at the time, in April by application of the famous Section 7, the counter-terrorism powers, and this did not go well. He decided to appeal it, a bit like appealing the MHRA's decision, but in this case you don't go to the Information Commissioner, you go to the Independent Reviewer of Terrorism Legislation, and the Met Police that arrested him were also referred to the IOPC, the police watchdog on this. Look at the Independent Reviewer's remarks here, as covered by The Guardian, but also the source document, which will be in the show notes. You can see important restrictions here, but basically, as Vanessa and others have said, like John Loughland, police will act on a tip-off, but foreign governments cannot require a stop, which is what seems to have happened to Moret. The Met Police insincerely claimed that it was because of threats that Moret might be a problem in Britain rather than to please the French. Look at this as well. It's an offence up to 3 months imprisonment or a fine, not 5 years as some think, to say, I'm not going to answer your questions if you get arrested as a result of not going through with one of these 6-hour grillings at a port of entry. But you can only be convicted if the exercise of the power was lawful. The commissioner asked Moret directly, as part of his complaint, what he had been told. He finds out that the officer detaining him from the Met asked Moret, what has your lawyer told you? Very questionable indeed. Secondly, the Met police officer during the 6-hour detention said, if you don't give us your passwords, you will never travel abroad again and never see your family. The commissioner raps the police over the knuckle, saying you can't possibly know what future conditions will be. Finally, on this, if you tap that again, Moret was told after his 6-hour grilling, we're arresting you anyway because you didn't give us your passwords. He was given a bit of sleep and then interviewed under caution and held firm. He's saying, I will answer your questions, but I won't give you access to my files. And the same day he was bailed, and then the Crown Prosecution Service said, drop the matter. So this is not complete tyranny. If you stand up to it, you have to be very careful in what you decide to do. You can see this off. And look at these criticisms at the end here. No one in the Met said, are we really needing to make this a public order offence? Is this really a Schedule 7 matter? They didn't reflect at any point, and this is British officialese being understated again. It is difficult not to sympathise with what Moret said during examination when he said, you are crazy and it's not normal in a democracy to demand my devices simply to assess whether I'm going to call for violence on British streets. It's using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. The police have many other tools in their toolbox.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And what can we say? Well, we've already brought up in today's news, problems with the Met, institutionally corrupt. So should we be surprised that they can't get this legislation enacted properly? I don't think so. Debbie, where does that take us?